Welcome into today's video. I'm excited to bring you this full step-by-step course on low ticket funnels for online coaching businesses, where I'll share with you what it is, how it works, and how you can get started as quickly as possible. If you're new here, my name is Alexander Mena. I've been in the info and coaching space since 2018, and in that time, I've worked with hundreds of clients within the health niche, wealth creation, and literally everything in between. The entire purpose of this YouTube channel and videos like today's is to share with you the lessons I've learned about what has worked and what hasn't worked during that time. I've got nothing to sell you, currently committed to growing my own coaching businesses that I'm actually partnered with. And all I want to do is help you skip some of the mistakes that I made, hopefully cut through all the BS of the coaching industry. So with that said, let's jump into the video. All right, let's get started. So what is a low ticket funnel full course? That's what we're going to be diving into today, like I mentioned in the title of this video. So the first thing I want us to look at is what is the goal of a low ticket funnel? Oftentimes when people think of low ticket, they think you're just selling $17, 27, or maybe it's a low to medium ticket. Maybe you're selling something that's $100 or a few $100. And that's it. That's all you're selling. The thing is, you're not going to have a super successful business, particularly an online coaching business, if that's all you're selling, unless you have a really big organic following, right? If you've got a really engaged following, maybe you've got 50,000 followers on Instagram or something like that, maybe TikTok, or YouTube, you've got a decent following there, and you've got really engaged following, you can get away with having lower amount of followers. But for the most part, if you want to make a heap of money and have a profitable business with low ticket stuff, you're more than likely going to need a lot of followers to be able to do it. So typically with low ticket, what we're looking for is to sign back-end clients either on MRR, maybe that's a few $100 a month or $100 a month or something like that, or it could be MRR of consulting agency side of things where it could be thousands of dollars a month. That's cool too. Or typically it's just straight high ticket. Maybe you're selling 2K, 3K, 5K, 10K, 20K program consulting, whatever that might look like, right? So the main goal here is we're trying to sign back-end clients at MRR or high ticket. We're not just going for low ticket sales, okay? That's not the purpose of this. This is the first thing I wanted to cover in this video because it's often a big misconception. People think if they've been selling high ticket for a long time, maybe they have a coaching program of some sorts, and someone says, hey, you should do low ticket. Oftentimes they go, why would I sell my stuff for $17? That's not what we're trying to do, okay? So I just want to cover that quickly. Now, there are two ways to run a low ticket funnel, depending on how well versed you are with this this kind of funnel structure. Depending on what you've done previously, you probably have seen more of the self-liquidating option, so number one there. But there is also another option you can do, which is call focused. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go through which is right for you in particular. As the first step of this entire guide, is looking at which one suits your situation the best. Because like anything, there's no best funnel for everyone. There's no best approach for everyone. There's something that's best for you, right? Because your business is inherently different from other people's businesses. It comes down to the time that you have to invest into building things. It has the capital that you have in terms of actually putting things together, team, the type of clients you serve, whether they've got money, they don't have money, all those things come into the fact of what's the best for you. So we're going to jump into that really quickly, and we're going to help you decide on what type of angle and then what direction should you take with your low ticket funnel, because it makes a really big difference to the type of people you're trying to bring through, how you're running the funnel, how easy it is to run, and then obviously the type of clients you sign on the back end. So let's jump into that. Now, you're going to notice with this presentation, right? Some of it has been built out previously, like tables and things like this, just because otherwise you'd be sitting here for an hour with me drawing out a table like this. Other parts are going to be a bit more ad hoc, where I'm going to be working things out with you, okay? So let's jump in. The first thing I want to look at is the two different types of low ticket funnels you can run. So you can see, I'm going to switch to a blue pen here. The first one is self-liquidating, and then the second is call focused. Now, I'm just going to quickly explain this. Self-liquidating, meaning that you have your low ticket offer, maybe that's $17, $27. That's typically what you've probably seen if you've seen ads out there around low ticket offer funnels. Then you might have some order bumps as people go through the checkout. And then you might have an upsell, a downsell page, maybe a second upsell, second downsell pages after people purchase, before they then go to the product, right? So the funnel has multiple steps throughout it, right? Purpose of that is obviously to have the highest ROAS on the front end as possible. So most fully self-liquidating funnels can sit at 80% or higher. Obviously, I understand 80% is not fully self-liquidating. I'm talking about when you scale spend, that ROAS on the front end will drop, right? So we've had some funnels that they do really well. They sit around a 1.5 or above when they're at about like $500 to $1,000 a day in ad spend. But then obviously as you scale spend, as you're getting up to around 3,000, 5,000 bucks, 10,000 bucks a day in ad spend, that ROAS isn't going to drop on the front end as you naturally start to go for more colder audiences rather than just the warm audiences that maybe you've tapped into before, right? So typically I see at a fully scaled up approach of as much money as you can spend on these funnels, every industry is different, you will find that a funnel that is self-liquidating and has all the upsells involved to be able to sit as close to possible or higher than break even is going to sit around that 0.8, right? So if you spend 100 bucks a day on ads, you're going to bring in 80 bucks back, right? Obviously, if you're spending around $100 a day, you should be a lot more profitable than that. So that's the first thing. Now, call focus, the front end ROAS on that is going to sit a lot lower. That is going to sit around 0.4, right? And obviously that's a whole lot lower. You're only covering 40% of your spend. But what you're doing here is you have you buy the low ticket, so again, $17, $27. You have your checkout. Now you could have a two-step form where it's all on the same page and it's just people put in name, email, phone number, and then it goes to the second part of the checkout and maybe have some order bumps there. Or you can direct them through to a checkout page and you can have in the checkout there, you can have your order bumps. I recommend having 2 to 3 order bumps here. 3 is really the sweet spot on this, provided you deliver it right and they're relevant for the type of low ticket offer they're buying. And what you're trying to do is help them get to the end result that they want faster or easier with less investment of time on their side. Obviously, those order bumps can do well. That's going to help you cover around about 40% of your spend there. We have seen some of these call-focused funnels where it's low ticket, then straight to book a call, because, pardon me, I didn't explain that. You go from the low ticket through to their checkout, then the very next page is book a call, right? Because it's a shorter funnel, people aren't getting that decision fatigue of going through all these other upsells. You typically see a lot of people booking a call on that second page, right after the checkout. So the purpose of this is to really be more focused on booking calls rather than liquidating all the spend. So we're going to get through to in a second on which is the best one for you, depending on, again, time, capital, all those kind of things, which you'll see here, a little bit lower on the table. But what I would focus on here is if you are trying to book a lot of sales calls, then this might be the better option for you, right? 0.4 front-end ROAS is, again, when you've scaled your spend. If you are spending 100 bucks a day, a few $100 a day, pretty much anything less than $1,000 a day, you might find that your ROAS is actually higher than that. We see for some that they can sit up around 0.8, but then as you scale, which is the whole point of these low ticket funnels where you are either liquidating all of your spend or you're liquidating some of your spend, is to be able to push the budget as high as possible. With a traditional book a call funnel, say VSL, direct application, DM ad, all those kind of things, IG follower ads, you have to invest the capital and then you've got to wait a fair amount of time to be able to see that capital come back in to then put it back into ads, right? With a low ticket funnel like this, you are instantly liquidating. It just depends how much of that you're liquidating, which obviously means you want to be able to push the budget as high as possible. So it's easier, theoretically, especially when you're starting out. If you're doing between 10 to 30K a month in your coaching business, it's easier to spend more money on these funnels, get more buyers instead of leads through, rather than running a book a call funnel or something like that, right? Because you can afford to spend $2,000 a day, $5,000 a day in a lot easier fashion if you're liquidating all of it or most of it, rather than with a book a call funnel or IG follower ads and things like that, where if you're spending $5,000 a day on ads, you have to be making sure that you've got the back end sorted really nice and tight because you're not liquidating any of that. So within a week, you can spend 30K pretty quickly. And if the back end's not sorted, you've lost that, right? The thing with this as well is if you're running a low ticket funnel properly, you can run the front end and spend as much as possible. And if you're liquidating a lot of that, it allows you to stuff up on the back end, right? It gives you more flexibility with dialing in the closing, the setting, all of those kind of things because next week or next month, you've already liquidated some of that spend back. You can roll the dice and go again, right? That's the key thing here with a book a call funnel or anything else where you're putting out the cash and you got to wait till the back end brings it back in. If you stuff it up on the back end, if your closers have a bad day, if for some reason automations break, if something goes wrong and you don't sign as many clients on the back end as you would have anticipated, it's harder for you to roll the dice again unless you've got a float or a cash buffer there. With low ticket, you can afford to make a couple of mistakes on the back end, particularly if you're starting out and you haven't run a funnel like this before. It's a little bit more forgiving. Okay, so that's one thing. Now, next, call booking. So when we're running the self-liquidating funnel, because we have, let's say, for example, self-liquidating, you have the low ticket, then you would have the order bumps, then you might have upsell one, then you might have downsell one, and then it might go and go and go, right? Until you have upsell two, downsell two. Then you might have a book a call function on the back. You get a lot of decision fatigue, right? People have to opt from here to here to here to here to here, right? Whereas with the second option, the call focus option, you're going to have the low ticket offer, you're going to have the order bump, and then you're going to have book a call here. There's less decision fatigue, right? So your booking rate of the calls is a lot higher. Okay, so I want to explain that quickly. Now, on the first option, you're probably going to sit around 10 to 20% of people are going to book a call, which is pretty good going considering you've liquidated most of your spend, if not all of it, or been profitable. And by the way, we've had some of these funnels where you can spend $5,000 a day and still be profitable on the front end and be profiting $1,000 a day or something like that on the front end before you even sign a high ticket client. So not to say that's not possible. It definitely is possible. It's just becoming harder and harder, right? As things get more expensive with Facebook and how they change things as well. Now, so you can sit about 10 to 20%. As you scale things, it's going to drop as you get to more colder audiences. They're not going to be as easy to convert into a call. Whereas on the call focus option, you're going to sit about 40 to 60%, right? If you notice that you're booking 60% or more into a call, you're probably going to find that maybe the way you position that call, like the reason for them to book the call, is a little bit more lax. And you'll probably get people on the call that are just wanting help with onboarding access and things like that. And you're not going to have more of a sales opportunity out of it. If you're sitting more around 40% of people booking a call, that's like if you get 100 people that buy your low ticket offer, 40 of them book a call, right? You're probably sitting around the right point there. And it comes down to the messaging you use on that book a call page where it's talking about, okay, book a call for XYZ reason, right? Depending on the reason you put there, it's going to depend on the type of quality that then go through and book a call. Now, next thing on here. So capital, right? I would suggest that if you are shorter on capital, maybe you're more at that like 10K a month mark, go with the self-liquidating option first to be able to, like I mentioned, be a bit more forgiving on the wallet in terms of what cash comes through because you're able to fund the ad spend that goes through the funnel. And then you can make sure that the back end is dialed in, that people actually want the offer and things are working really well. Then you can switch over to the call focused funnel, right? But if you're a bit more experienced, if you're around the 30K mark, maybe doing a little bit better, you've got a bit of cash reserves there, I would go with the call focused funnel purely because of the capital that you need to be able to run things, right? On the self-liquidating funnel, you might need to say, okay, maybe your ads suck a little bit, right? You're not doing too well on your ads. Maybe your upsells are not the right kind of upsells. Maybe you're sitting around that 0.8 mark. Maybe you want a little bit of a cash buffer there over the month to be able to fund, say, from the 0.8 to break even, right? Whereas on the call focus funnel, it works more similarly to a VSL book a call funnel, IG DM ads, IG follower ads, but you are still liquidating 40%. So you're going to be in a better position. But you might want 5 to 20K there in a float to be able to fund things in case you kind of don't do too well on the back end, right? If you're still trying to work things out. Hopefully by the end of this course, I'll answer all of your questions and give you a good step-by-step process on making sure that you pick the right offer and then you structure everything properly on the back end so you get the most amount of sales coming through. Obviously from the front end side of leads coming through, but then also ascension on the back end so you can convert 3% or higher of your low ticket leads. So we'll talk about that in a second. Now, back-end ROAS, obviously your self-liquidating funnel is going to be a little bit lower in the back-end ROAS. We find that you sign less clients with the full self-liquidating funnel because it allows you to get more low-ticket buyers through and spend more on ads, right? But typically, you get less back-end clients through, right? Whereas the call focus one is just easier. It's a more simple approach where a low-ticket buyer comes through, they book a call, you sign them all, right? So it's a bit more favorable on that side. In terms of time that it takes to build this out, I say that with the self-liquidating one, it really depends in terms of what you've got built out so far that matches what needs to be a good offer. It could take you typically, like if you've got everything sorted already, it might take you 7 days. If you need to build out products, it's going to take you more than 7 days to put a funnel like this together. Whereas with the call focus one, it should really take you less than 7 days because all you need is a low ticket page. You need a call booking page, and then you just need a couple of products to put in there. Your low ticket offer and a couple of order bumps. And you can build things out along the time of increasing show up rates for calls, getting better booking rates, increasing closing rates and things like that as well. So I would find that depending on your financial investment and your time investment, that's going to determine which type of funnel you go for. All in all, if you have, if you have the cash to go into the red on the front end, then convert well from the calls on the back end, do option 2, which is the calls focused. And if you need to cover your ad spend and don't mind it taking a little bit longer, maybe you're doing more like 10K a month, right? Where I would say this one might be more if you're doing 10K plus per month. Then on this side, you can do the self-liquidating, right? Hopefully that makes sense and you guys understand that. Gives you a bit of direction as well in terms of what you should be focusing on and where you should start. And so the next thing I want to do is I want to break down the math. I want to show you how this actually works when we put real numbers into the system, because you're probably looking at it now and you go, okay, well, yeah, I understand. I can spend a bit more on the self-liquidating and I can probably stuff up a little bit more on the back end whilst I'm trying to work things out. And then with the other side of the call focus one, I'm going to get more bookings that come through. But I've just got to dial things in a bit more. I've got to have a bit more of a cash buffer. Makes sense, Alex, but I'm still a bit confused which to do. Let me show you real numbers in like a projections breakdown so you can see how this actually works. I'm going to swap to another screen. All right, so let's jump in. This is a breakdown here we can use. I've already pre-filled this to show you 2 examples here of the low ticket setup. There's 3 examples, but I'll show you in a bit more detail of low ticket with upsells, and so the self-liquidating offer, and then low ticket with just a call focus, which goes straight to book a call, to show you here how this works. So for example, we might have, this is the self-liquidating offer here. You might have a $17 low ticket offer. You might have a $17 order bump, $27 order bump, and a $37 order bump. Bonus tip here, you can, if you're like, look, I don't have that many products, right? What am I going to put together? These can be 2 different products. And then this one here could be a bundle of the products as well. So instead of it costing 17 plus 27, instead of it costing 44, they can pay 37 to get these, right? So it's a bit of a deal. Now your order bump should convert about 30%. So if you have 1,000 people throughout the month buying your low ticket $17 product, you should get about 30% of those buying here as well. Just noticed as well, let's just make sure that needs to be, pardon me. Little error there. Okay, cool. We're good to go. Now, yeah, okay, sorry, just checking that for you guys. I've duplicated this out to separate it for the purposes of this YouTube funnel. So yeah, we've got 17 and we've got 17, 27, and 37. Then you might have a upsell here at 97. You've got a downsell of 47. So that's just people say no to the $97 offer. On the next page, they go, they hit an offer, which is, hey, buy it for half price. So you can buy it for 47. and then you have a second upsell at 297, and then a second downsell at 197. These are the conversion rates that you typically see for that. If you structure it the right way, if your pages look good, the offer is right, messaging is on point, you're probably going to see about these kind of conversion rates here. Now, based on everyone buying that, if you had 1,000 people go through the funnel, you have your drop down conversion rate, you're going to look at these stats here. Let's say I put the spend up a decent amount here just for the purpose of showing if you got 1,000 sales within the month, okay? So let's say you spent, if you were trying to get 1,000 sales in the month and you were selling that $17 product, let's say it cost you $50 to get that sale, right? So your cost per acquisition or your cost per new customer is going to be $50. So $50 over 1,000 sales, it's going to be $1,750, right? $1,750 in ad spend, which means if that's per day, you're going to spend 50 grand on ads in that first month. Now, obviously, keep in mind, you wouldn't start with $1,750 daily ad spend. You might start with 100. You might ramp it up over time as you add new ad sets in and as you see things are working. But this is to show you a realistic approach of how things can scale up quite quickly. And we've had many, many clients of ours where they might start at $50 or $100 a day, but by the end of the month, they're spending 2 grand a day profitably, which is kind of similar example to this, spending around 60 grand a month, because particularly in a self-liquidating funnel like this, you're bringing back that cash every day. You don't have a waiting cycle of things having to take a little bit longer to wait for the high ticket or the back end to be able to bring in your sale and bring back in that cash. So let's say it takes you 29 days to do that. You're going to bring in $70,000 in front-end revenue. So that's from all of these sales here. You probably have 2,700 bucks in Stripe fees. It's going to mean that you make 20 grand on the front end compared to, like, you spent 50, you brought in 70, you're at a 1.4 front end rise. Now, this is a perfect example of this working well. Obviously, it depends on how you have things set up for yourself. Like if the messaging is correct, all those kind of things, which we'll get into in a moment, but I want to show you accurate representations of comparing these two funnels. Now, I mentioned before, when we look at, we'll switch back here. When we look at this table, I mentioned before that you might book calls around 10 to 20%, right? So this, you might book calls around, keep switching to my eraser, around 10 to 20%, right? So if we're looking here at the book a call rate, you've brought through 1,000 low ticket buyers in that month, 10% of them book a call, you're going to get 100 people book a call here. Let's say your show up rate is average, you haven't done much to improve it. Most people, given the fact that the person's just bought a $17 product and then you're getting them to jump on a call, most of our clients can get this up around 80%, 70% worst case scenario, but we're putting this at lower rates for you guys just to see kind of a realistic approach in your first month of what you can aim for before you start to dial things in. So let's say 60% show up, you're going to be at 60 showed calls. So your close rate, pretty average, 20%, 12 closes. If you sell a 5 grand product, that's 60 grand in high ticket revenue on the back end. So total profit is obviously going to be your profit here, plus your back end revenue, because there's no cost for your back end revenue if you run the front end properly, if it's at 1.4, which means your 80 grand total profits are 2.6 back end ROAS. But like I mentioned, your low ticket to high ticket conversion rate is a little bit lower than what you'd expect maybe with the call focus one. It's at 1.2%. So you're converting out of 1,000 people, you're converting 1.2% into high ticket clients, right? But what this allows you to do, particularly if you're within that 10 to 30K a month range, is be able to scale up a lot quicker than what you probably would with another funnel, given if you don't have the capital reserves. This is going to allow you to spend more when you don't have a big buffer, right? Now, when we look at the alternative here, this is a book a call focused low ticket. So this is the second option. Same things here. Let's say you have, I will just change this again because it's pulled the wrong one. Let's just change that to 38. Yep, there we go. Let's say you sell $17, then 17, 27, 37. This is how things should convert for your order bumps, but that's all you're selling in the funnel, right? You don't have any upsells, downsells, anything like that. Same thing here. We're spending the same amount. It's costing us the same because realistically, it would be no different. The only thing that changes is from the checkout page onwards. Let's say here though, obviously with these numbers, you're doing quite well, and your cost per sale is pretty decent on this. If you're like you advertising well to get a $17 sale, if it's only costing you $50. So your front end, if you spent 50 grand in ads, you brought in 41,000 in front end revenue. It's cost you about 8,700. So again, this means if you're able to go into the red, this can work really well for you because you're only covering about 0.8% of your front end ROAS. Now, I mentioned before, again, if we switch back to here, I mentioned the 40 to 60%, right? I'm showing you an example here of it working really well. The difference is if we jump to, say, for example, your cost per sale is $80, right? You can see how this drops down to in between that 0 to 60, right? But if you've done things well, you might have a cost per sale of $50. Now, like I mentioned before, the book a call rate, 40% of people are going to book in a call. Now, I mentioned before that you can get up to 60% of people booking a call. 40% is typically where you're going to sit there. So that means out of 1,000 people that buy your low ticket, 400 people are going to book calls. Same show up rate. Let's say your close rate is a little bit lower, right? We've been a bit more lenient on this side. So out of 240 live calls, 24 people close, same product price. You're going to bring in 120 grand on the back end. So obviously, if we take out your cost of the ads here because you didn't self-liquidate on the front end, and even if we drop this down, really, if we drop this to $80 cost per sale, let's say your ads weren't as good, and you're around that more realistic kind of like 0.5, you're still bringing in kind of 81,000 in total profit there, right, after your 120 grand. So it really depends in terms of how you build this out. But I would say that for most of you should be able to get down to a $50 cost per sale. That is realistic, especially at this daily ad spend. As you start to scale, you're probably going to have a higher cost per sale. But you'll see here, total profit, 111,000, total backend ROAS, 3, and your low ticket to high ticket conversion rate is a lot higher. It's closer to that 3%. That's without dialing in things like close rate and show rate. You can see here, if we dial in a few of these stats, let's say you are, I think I've got another example here. No, let's look at this one. Let's say you start to do really well with this, and you spend $5,000 a day. Let's say your cost per sale goes up to 80. Let's say that brings in, what would it be? 2,000 sales in a month. Near enough, 2,000 sales in a month. Your book or call rate, 40%. Say you bring your show rate up to 80% and your close rate goes up to 20%. Now look at your backend. Your backend is massive, right? It can make a big, big difference, but you have to be able to go into the red there on the front end. So it just depends in terms of your economics, right? Of what you can do here and what suits you. The reason I didn't show this first off is because obviously most of you, if you're doing between 10 to 30K a month, are not going to be able to jump straight away to 5 grand in ad spend a day. That's obviously something you do over time as you dial in the back end stats and things like that as well. But that's how you can really scale up the back end and have a good back end ROAS and a decent low ticket to high ticket conversion rate as well. Okay, let's jump back here. So now that I've explained that, we really want to jump into a bit of the theoretical stuff now of, okay, I understand the maths, I see how this works, but how do we create the right low ticket offer, right? Because that's obviously something that makes a big difference for how does your ads work, the response to the messaging, and everything that kind of comes from, like all the stats that kind of come from this directly are affected by the type of offer you have. If you have a bad low ticket offer, the funnel's not going to work. And I think people underestimate how much effort needs to go into building the right type of offer. They might just grab something off the shelf of, hey, I built this webinar once, or hey, I've got this ebook. Let's just throw it out there and see how it works. Oftentimes that makes your job as an advertiser and as a salesperson on the back end so much harder, right? But if we can build the right low ticket offer that matches the process of what we're trying to sell on the back end, your life can be so much easier, and it can make the whole process a lot more seamless. So what I'm going to jump into here is 3 things for creating the right low ticket offer. We're going to look at offer types. We're going to look at what actually works. And then we're going to look at thinking long term as well. when we look at different offer types, let's just switch this back to black. Different offer types, we want to think about what is typically going to work with your audience. And I think this is where most people either mix things up, or they see another low ticket funnel, see someone in a different industry, maybe in their industry even, running ads to a low ticket funnel, and they go, oh, okay, I'll just funnel hack that person, I'll do that offer, right? The difference is when someone's running a VSL or a book a call funnel, and you see their VSL and you're like, okay, I'll just copy that. Or you see their ads and you go, well, that ad's been running for a long time, I'll just copy that, right? There's less that can go wrong with that. Whereas the low ticket offer can have a really, really big effect on one, how you get sales on the front end, but then also how you ascend people on the back end. So when we're looking at different offer types, people often go for a like mini course. They go for a workshop, or some sort of webinar, masterclass, whatever you want to call it. They might go for a 3 to 5 day challenge. They might go for templates, tools, all those kind of things. So we'll drop that in there. And there's a few other examples as well. But we need to think about what is best suited for your type of audience, right? Because the fact is, all of these pretty much work. It just depends in terms of who you're selling to. For example, someone who's short on time, it's probably no point getting them into a mini course or a book. It's another one here as well. Put these kind of together. A mini course or a book, or like a 3 day challenge. It's just too time intensive for that person, right? If someone doesn't have a lot of time, why are they going to commit to a 5 day challenge, right? They might be better off with a workshop or a webinar, or some sort of hour-long thing that's just going to, or half an hour training that's going to tell them how to fix that one thing straight away, right? That's one thing on that side. If you've got people that, like, if you've tried low ticket before and you've found that, okay, I ran a template or a tool and my ascension on the back end just wasn't as good, it's typically because you're going to find people come through and they will just buy the template to solve that thing, and then they don't want anything else, right? There's no logical ascension into the next part of what you're trying to sell them. So we need to think about that as well. And that really comes down to looking at, so we've got the offer types here. But we need to look at what works and thinking long term as well. So when I say long term, I'm talking about, if we sell this offer, what's going to happen 30 days down the line, right? Some people will sell a 30, I'm going to put some examples out here, 30-day challenge, or like I might do like a roadmap of sorts. What that does is that delays from, do a little timeline here, from the point of purchase to the ascension. That puts 30 days in between it, right? Same thing with a book. A book can work well, but a book means someone's got to read the book before they ascend, right? A 30, like the same thing with the challenge. What you can typically do is you can look at how you can shorten that sales cycle, right? So how do we bring that back to being about here? So what happens is they buy, they consume, because consumption is a big thing, and then they ascend, right? That's what we want to look at when we're thinking about how do we do this long term, and what are we looking for on that side. Often what I find is, if it's, it doesn't really matter what industry you're in, but if you are able to look at, for example, let's draw another timeline. This is the timeline of when someone is, let's use the terminology of right? So here's a timeline. And this might be the generic timeline of when you start working with someone, right? And then by the end of when you've worked with them, right? And you've taken them from where they are and this is where they're trying to get to. And I'm talking about through typically like your high ticket program, right? There are going to be all these little milestones that they have to come across and they have to go through to be able to then get to the end result, right? What we need to look at is where is the point, right? That people get somewhere and they go, okay, I need a lot of help with this. And also, there's another point there of looking at what short milestones can we help these people with, where it's incredibly valuable, right? Maybe this is super valuable to them, but it doesn't jeopardize your high ticket program or everything major on the back end, right? For example, with coaching, right? I might be able to give someone a short training on messaging and how to attract the right clients, right? But that doesn't jeopardize anything else I'm selling on the back end with uh, run your ads, with uh, managing sales teams, with fulfillment. See how there's so many other things with if you're taking someone from beginner coach to amazing coach or making $1 million a year coach, right? There's all these other things they need to focus on. We're just cherry picking one part, right? That's a big thing that I'd like you to think about when you look at, okay, I work with someone from here and I'm trying to take them to here. What is a small milestone we can take out that's going to give them a lot of value? And ultimately, a big thing here as well, which I want to mention, is you want to be able to, as quickly as possible, give them a quick win. The quicker you can give them a quick win, the quicker they can see the value of working with you and that you know what you're talking about. And then from there, they go, okay, well, what else can this person help me with, right? And we're trying to speed run them to the point of where they go, okay, like I really need this person's help now, right? Oftentimes there's something that you can offer on the front end that when you do that properly, they go, okay, yeah, I've solved that thing. All right, now I've got this other problem in front of me. So we're trying to create the next problem. For example, I'm going to put another example here. You might help someone with, uh, let's say, scaling ads, right? Here's how you scale ads. But inevitably, what that's going to bring them towards is the next problem. And the next problem is they need to know how they need to know how to do high creative output. So obviously, as someone scales their ads, they're then going to need to know, okay, how do I get out 100 ads a week? Because I need to be able to fuel the system and do enough testing to then be able to scale, put testing to be able to then graduate things into scaling campaigns and have enough that are in scaling to be able to keep fueling the beast. So then you might go, okay, cool. Now you're at a point where you need this thing. And that's where the next logical solution into your high ticket happens, right? So that's really important. If we can help someone, if we can speed run someone to the next problem they have, it then makes a logical solution for why you would offer your high ticket, right? And obviously, if it's a short, small problem that you're selling and you're fixing with the low ticket offer, then it makes it easier to sell the back end because they're not working in conflict against each other, right? Or you're not selling something that they're thinking, oh, that's ages away. I don't need to focus on that. Or I can do that myself, right? Also, if you've helped them enough with the low ticket, then typically they go, okay, yeah, it makes sense. Like there was a lot of help that I got with the low ticket. Imagine what I'd get from consulting agency, coaching program, whatever you sell on the back end. Hopefully that makes sense for you guys. By the way, if you have any questions on this as I'm going through the YouTube video, put them down below in the comment section, and I'll film individual videos directly on that subject. Because obviously I go through, I build this whole training out, things come out all over the place, and this is all ad lib. I have a little bit of notes here to be able to help you guys through and give you some structure and keep me on topic, because otherwise I'll ramble on for days. But there are little things, little nuggets that you might find go, oh, I need an answer on that. So let me know and I'll film individual videos on it. I'm more than happy to. That's what this entire purpose of this YouTube is for. Downloading the lessons, downloading the tutorials on you guys, not charging you for it, just giving it to you for free so you guys can go out there and implement. And then, hey, maybe down the line, you want to recommend me to someone else, right? So let's run back here, because I think we've covered this in enough detail now for the offer types. Obviously, these are the main offer types that we see work well for low ticket offers. You can do more. There's other things out there that you will have seen, but typically these are the ones that work the best depending on who you're trying to offer to, right? Now, the next thing is ads that make selling easy. People often they overcomplicate the ads they're doing. Obviously, as you scale, you're going to need some structure in terms of how you're advertising. But I feel like there's pretty much three things that when you get these three things right, your ads will work, right? Let's look at this quickly. Like, the first thing is you want to call out your audience. So I think it's really important that when you're running your ads, this is kind of standard, and I think you probably know this, but I want to cover in a bit of detail. Calling out the audience that you're trying to sell to is really important these days with advertising, because of the way the engineers have built the platform, particularly on Meta. So when you're running ads on Facebook and Instagram, if you're not talking directly to that person, you're going to find that your ads flop, right? Because it's too broad in terms of who it's delivering it to. We used to run ads where we would create the ad. This would be our ad, and we would send it to a interest, and then Facebook would deliver it to the person, right? Based on the interest. Now it works more like you have your ad. It was a terrible box. And then based on what you say, so your copy, your creative, Facebook is then going to send it to the person. So we skip a step now, right? And this makes a big difference for when you're thinking about running your ads, who you're talking to. And I like a good example of this where this is not my example, this is through a friend of ours. If you're advertising towards a certain group of people, let's say, and I'll use this example, let's say the example is, a little stick figure out of the way, is the offer is marriage counseling. Marriage counseling, right? If you just say, hey, if you're having troubles with your marriage, you need this offer, right? And obviously you're going to build out the ad a bit more, but that's the crux of it. It can perform, it could do well, but Facebook is now looking at it going, okay, I've got this person, I've got this person, and I've got this person, and I've got the ad, right? Who am I going to give it to? And it has to really circulate it among the people before it goes, oh, okay, that one's working well, and let's deliver it there. There's a lot of wasted spend there. What can work a lot better is if you test based on the type of people you're going to go to, and you might know already, if you're doing 10 to 30K a month, you have a defined audience already, right? You've got an idea of who you're selling to. It might be worthwhile looking at all the clients you have and working out, say, for example, this is, oh, let's use apples. There we go. Let's say you have the 80% here and the 20%, horrible pie chart, but you can get the picture. Let's say 80% of your clients are X and 20% of them are Y. Well, let's start advertising more towards the X, is what I'm saying. Because you will already find that there is a particular segment of the people that you've sold to previously that you can start to advertise towards and call them out. In this marriage counseling offer, let's give you an example of, instead of just advertising to everyone that needs that needs help, you can advertise to men or women, right? Your ads to each of these demographics can be completely different, right? In terms of what you talk about. For men, it's going to be, okay, dealing with your wife, XYZ, all the problems that are associated with that. For women, it's going to be vice versa, right? But then you can also go a little bit further and be like, men that have tried counseling before, right? This is a lot more niched down than this. And that makes it a lot easier for Facebook to go, oh, okay, that's exactly who they're trying to go for, right? And then that means instead of you having your ad and you have Jim over here, you have Jessica, you have Barry, you have whoever, instead of Facebook going, oh, deliver it to them, no, deliver to him, no, deliver to him, no, deliver to that guy. Oh, yeah, that one worked. Instead, what it does is it auto analyzes and goes, no, 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 goes bang, straight to the right one, right? And then it makes the CPAs a lot better. It makes your ROAS a lot better, provided your messaging is congruent from the ad to the landing page about the offer, what it is, and everything is seamless. You're going to find your ads perform a lot better. So this is where, with your advertising, you need to be very, very clear in terms of who you're calling out, what the product does, and also talking about a very clear problem, right? So outlining the problem as clear as possible. In this case, you'll probably want to test this. Like I mentioned, you've got your clients on the back end that you can do a bit of an audit, a bit of a research or survey about this to get an idea. But I really implore you to, when you start running your ads, let's go here, the spare space here. You'll want to have different ad concepts or angles. So you might have angle 1, you'll have angle 2, and angle 3. And I would pick the 3 biggest problems or pains that your audience typically faces and start advertising with that. And then you can see, okay, which one's more profitable? And then when you find, okay, maybe these 2 work better than this guy, get rid of that guy and then add a new one in, and just keep going until you find 3 that they're within the KPI of what you're looking for. Maybe they perform well on the ROAS that you're trying to achieve. And you see that those people are signing up on the back end really well too, and really easy, because you're going to find as well, say for example, the man that has tried counseling before and it's not worked, you're selling an offer that's different for marriage counseling and helping him save his relationship. Advertising to that guy with a low ticket offer that's relevant to him, and then get him getting on a call on the back end, and then you having an offer that's specifically related to that guy, that flow is going to work a lot easier, not only for your team and knowing how to sell it, but also in terms of the messaging being more on point, the pains hitting harder for that person, him being more emotionally invested in things. And then obviously as well, when you're selling on the back end, it just makes more sense. So the high ticket ascension is going to be a lot easier, right? So it's something to think about. Now, the other thing is, in your ads, it's really important that you go direct to purchase. Some people, they will talk about, they'll call the person out, they'll talk about the problem, but then they'll say, hey, I've got this thing for you, right? But they don't say it's X amount off, like it's discounted, or it costs X amount. Whether they're doing images or video ads, they don't say that it's a paid thing, which means you'll get curiosity clicks. You'll get people clicking through the landing page. Maybe you've got people opting in, but no one's buying, or very little percentage of buying. We want to make sure we're getting 3% or higher conversion rate on the landing page. So that's, if you had 100 people go to the landing page, 3% are buying the product, right? Not viewing the product, not opting in, but buying the product, okay? You're able to get a lot higher than that as well, but that's the bare minimum. If you're not at 3%, if you're sitting around like 2, you probably just need better messaging congruency. If you're sitting around half or 1% or 1.5% or something, or sub 2, typically I go, okay, let's let's throw the product away. Let's look at, okay, messaging is completely off. Product's probably not that good, right? That's typically what we're looking at, because there's no point polishing a turd when there is the possibility that you can be at 3% or higher quite quickly. You're better off just finding a product that works. And I liken this to drop shipping or e-commerce, right? You might have some friends, you might know some people that are in drop shipping. Plenty of people have tried it, plenty of people have failed at it. And it's the ones that have succeeded are often, there are some outliers that maybe they got the first product worked straight out the gate. Fantastic, happy for them. But the ones that are typically really successful tried 20 products before they actually saw success, right? Or maybe they tried at least 10. But the point is that they continuously tried something to see what would hit the market well. And it's the same with this. Your first low ticket product may not work. It may not be perfectly related to the audience. It may not work really well on front end, right? And it might be unprofitable to get the sale, might convert less than 3%. Or you might find that it works well there, but it delays the sales cycle on the back end to get them into a high ticket offer on the back end or MRR. So it's really important that you test these low ticket products as well to see what's going to work best for you. But main point here, a little bit of a tangent, is go direct to purchase. So in your ads, you are talking about, okay, in your ad, so you are structuring a sales campaign, you're optimizing for purchase, you are in the ad putting in the promo text, it costs this much, this is the product that you'll buy. And then you're also talking about the price in the ad, whether it's an image or a video or a carousel, whatever it is. And then when they get to the landing page, you've got price there and they go through on purchase, right? Okay, so let's jump into funnels now. So we want to be pretty simple with the funnel to start with. If you're doing the self-liquidating option, which we've spoken about, obviously there's a bit more to build out on that side, because naturally you've got more upsell pages and more products and things like that as well. Like I mentioned, it's probably going to take you more than 7 days. If you're a beginner in this, it might take you closer to a month, depending on how much you got built out. AI has made things so much easier these days, so you should be able to get it done a lot quicker. When we used to have to build these things out manually, it could take anywhere from 14 to 30 days. These days, you can really get it done between 7 to 14. If you're doing a call-focused model, you just got a low-ticket landing page, a low-ticket product, a couple of order bumps, and maybe you don't even have a checkout page. You're just doing a two-step order bump, two-step order form to get started, and then you've got a book a call page. It's fairly simple. You can definitely get that done in 7 days. The thing I want to talk about here is simple funnels to start with, so you can see very clearly where the constraints are on the funnel. Is it opt-in, or is it your sales rate? Okay, is there a message congruency difference between what I'm saying in the ad, what I'm talking about, who I'm calling out, and what I'm saying on the landing page, what I'm trying to sell, who I'm trying to sell it to, right? So that's one thing. Then you're also looking at the back-end stats. The simpler you can make this, the simpler it can be to go, okay, I need to pull this lever to increase that thing, whether it's the booking rate for the calls, whether it's the show rate, whether it's close rate, whatever that looks like. But I really want you to make sure that you have ad congruency with your landing page. So whatever you are talking about in your ad, you are talking about it in a very similar fashion on your landing page. There needs to be a clear mechanism of the thing they're buying and how it works, and it needs to be really relevant to what you said in the ad. So again, in the ad, if you're calling out men that have tried counseling before and it hasn't worked, then, and you're saying, hey, go buy this product, which is an alternate way to save your marriage, then on the landing page, you need to say, the Save Your Marriage Kit for Men, right? Like it needs to be really, really succinct and congruent with what the ad's talking about. I also like to talk about show, don't tell. Let's make sure that on the landing page, you've got more images on there, you're showing testimonials, you're showing before and afters, you're also showing what the product looks like, what people are gonna get. So they've got an understanding of, okay, I'm spending $17, $27, whatever it might be. What am I actually going to get out of this thing? And showing them, this is where you are now, this is where you're going to be. Being more outcome focused is going to really help with people going through and buying. If you've got a whole bunch of text on there, and it's depending on your market, some people might be less of an emotional buyer, more of a logical buyer. Some people may prefer short form instead of long form pages. You're going to find that you might struggle to get the conversion. So it's really important that you do a lot more showing on the page, and that will cut through the noise, especially as you're starting, to be able to get your sales through. So that's really important. And then outcome, then inclusions, right? So kind of what I focus on, I just mentioned before, and skipped a little ahead of myself. But being really outcome focused. Let's not talk too much straight at the start on these pages about these are all the things you're getting, these are all the benefits. We want to talk about when you get this thing, this is where you're going to be at, right? So talk about this is the problem you've got, right? When you get this product, this is where we're going to take you to. This is the outcome that you've been searching for. You're going to be there, right? And like I mentioned before, try and not. I use a coaching example of this because I think it works well. But actually, let's use the marriage counseling one, right? Instead of saying this is going to completely save your marriage, you're going to be on the best terms ever, blah, 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 you say, here's how to regain conversation with your partner, right? So maybe your ad is talking about all the problems in a marriage, blah, 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 and then it gets into the reason you're struggling and marriage counseling hasn't worked and stuff is you haven't fixed the root cause, which is communication. You need to understand how to communicate with your partner. Boom, people go, okay, that makes sense, right? And then they go to the landing page and you have the regain conversation with your partner toolkit or workshop, whatever it is, right? And then on there, you're talking about, you're reaffirming these are the problems that you're facing, right? And we're going to show you how to regain conversation with your partner so that you can blah, 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 blah. And the reason for that is, remember, we're only selling this much of the process. We're not selling all the other things, which is then where your high ticket comes in, because we don't want to bastardize or jeopardize the back end, right? So that's really important. But then what you can do as well is once you get through the landing page, you can start to go, okay, you're going to get this thing, you're going to get that thing. These are the inclusions that you're going to get, but I wouldn't lead with that. That more comes lower down the page where people are like, okay, I understand where I'm going to be at the end of this, but what am I actually getting? And final one on this as well, I will put, zoom in here, I'll just put it down here, is testimonials. So the more you can flood the page with testimonials, with before and afters, with screenshots of messages, videos, like anything that has proof, I feel like in today's day and age, the client results and the proof is what is doing the bulk of the selling for people. We've had people that have pretty similar kind of offers, similar kind of messaging. The product and landing page that has a lot more testimonials on it and shows people, hey, this has worked for people like you. This is where they were. This is where they've gotten to. Completely outperforms. And it's not like it's 0.5% improvement in conversion rate. It's double conversion rate because people are so much more convicted that it can work for them, particularly if you've got videos of like it's you as the coach doing a podcast style interview with the person. Oh, here's where they got to, and you've shortened it down so it's like a couple of minutes of their wins and things like that. It looks less faked because I think a lot of people fake their testimonials and things like that these days. So it's harder to show that authenticity out of it. It's kind of like a video like this, right? I am just talking about what I know. Pretty hard to fake if I know this or not, right? But someone who's teleprompted the whole thing, and that you can never see them kind of working things out or making mistakes in terms of how they're talking and stuff like that. Often you go, okay, well, do you really know what you're talking about? Because you can't talk about it for an hour without stopping. So take that as you will. But the same thing happens with these pages, where if you can show more realistic, authentic testimonials, case studies, all those kind of things, it's going to really help how things convert. Then that goes for any funnel as well. It's not just with low ticket. Okay, a little bonus here as well is good attribution. Okay, I cannot stress this enough. We use Hyros with all of our funnels. In saying that, there's no difference between using Hyros or a good conversions API. I'm sorry, a CAPI, if you're familiar with that. What I've found is that for low ticket funnels, if you can set up your CAPI well, you don't really need Hyros. Hyros gives you a pretty dashboard, all those kind of things. It really depends on what you're at with the business in terms of what you want to see and all those kind of things. But you can definitely scale quite quickly without Hyros. Just need a good conversions API. But the point is, you need to really be able to see good attribution of where the sale came from. And I'm talking about LTO, LTO and the high ticket offer or your MRR, whatever you're selling on the back end, because we want to see what ads are really bringing the back end customer as well. And we really want to make sure that we're pushing the right data through to Facebook, because Facebook is like a sniffer dog. If it doesn't if it hasn't got a sniff of the drug that it needs to go for, then that dog is not going to be able to find the drug in the airport, right? When it's sniffing out people's bags. So you need to make sure you are giving it the right thing to sniff for so we can go out and find the right people. If we're calling out a certain person in our ads, but then Facebook's not getting any data in terms of who it should go for, it's going to really struggle to go out and find more people like that. And it is really a snowball effect. If you're able to feed it the right data where maybe you have, particularly if you're using the call focused funnel, if you have 50 people book a call, but only 10 of them were the right people, then you only want to be giving those 10 people through to Facebook for their schedules, right? Then you can start to run this funnel where you're getting more schedules through as well, and you're focusing more on those people. Same with the purchases. You can drop the purchases so it only reports purchases back if it was a qualified call, and vice versa. So that is going to really help you get, it'll be slower at the start. You'll have higher costs at the start, but over time, you will have better ROAS, you will have better high ticket on the back end, and your salespeople will be happier because you get more people coming through that are typically better quality. Keep in mind though as well, if you start to scale this up, we've seen this problem on a few of our funnels as well. If you start to spend 5, 6, 10 grand a day on ads, you're going to find that you exhaust your warm audience, which will mean you'll start to see your closers might be like, okay, the quality's kind of bad. People just, they're a bit colder. Well, duh, because you've spent a shitload of money on trying to find that particular person. You've got to think about what your TAM is, so your total addressable market, and how many of those people are out there. And what you'll often find is that you'll probably exhaust the warm audience. And if you've got a funnel that looks like this, and cold people aren't coming through the top and then being warmed up and come through, then what will typically happen is when the machine exhausts all the people at the bottom of the funnel, let's show you an example, right? So let's say new people are coming in that are cold, and they have this varying degree of, let's do, so that's your warm radar. As the person comes through and then comes through and comes through, you might have your different levels of your top, middle, bottom. What you'll find is that Facebook's been exhausting this part for a lot of your spend, and then eventually it'll go to here, and then eventually it'll come up here, right? If no one new is being added at the top, Facebook's ad spend is just going to start to go up here. It'll only be getting people up here because you've not got anyone here. There's no one in the bottom, there's no one in the middle, right? So especially when you spend more on your ads, this is very, very common that people exhaust the amount of people that they can go to at a cheaper cost and that are warmer people. So you need to make sure you're still adding people at the top of the funnel that are colder audiences that are getting warmed up before they start to get hit with your low ticket products and things like that as well. You will find as you spend more, the quality will drop on any funnel, period, right? Low ticket obviously allows you to spend more because you're liquidating some of it and you can try and warm people up a bit more on the process, but just keep that in mind as well. Okay, so now you know about all three of these things, right? You know about your ads, you know about how to run the funnel, and attribution and things like that as well. Then what? What comes after this point, right? You've got a good understanding of most of it. We need to look at the next step. I want to give you kind of a 4-week roadmap of what you should be focusing on your first 4 weeks of getting this up and running. So I mentioned step-by-step course, full guide. Obviously in this, I want to show you, okay, this is what your 4 weeks should look like in terms of how you should be getting this up and running. So let's jump in. Week 1 to 2 is probably going to look a little bit like this. So you want to get to 10 buyers a day as quickly as possible within your KPI. So you want to look at what's the target ROAS you're going for, and then obviously ramping up your spend a little bit with, I like to ramp a bit more horizontally with, I want to test, like I mentioned before, test enough pain points, see which pain points are the most profitable. Then from there, test different angles or creatives that are going to match that as well. So that you can start to see what's really working well with your audience. You may already have an idea in terms of what's working. Maybe you've done some good organic stuff previously. You've got some data there. But you want to be able to get to 10 buyers a day within KPI as quickly as possible. Within those first week to second week, like the first 14 days, you also want to be doing emails that invite people to an onboarding call or a webinar or something like that. And you can have people that obviously come through the funnel, they then book a call at the end of it, and they get on the call with your sales team's trying to close them. But you can also do a weekly webinar or a weekly kind of fast track call or something like that, which is going to allow you to be able to sell those people in a quicker fashion, one to many as well. So you might have, like, for example, we've got a funnel that does about 150 to 200 sales a day. And from that, every week we get them onto a call and we try and close a heap of them there as well. It's like just a 45-minute to an hour call. First little bit is introduction, say, hey, thanks so much for buying the thing. Here's how the thing works. Here's what you can expect. And you do a little bit of teaching, like a slight webinar. Then at the end, you go, cool. So if you want a bit more help with this, you want us to be able to help you do it all, go and book a call here, right? And then they get shifted off to a closer and they get closed. So it's another way to just bring in more calls as well. If when they went through the funnel, they didn't book a call straight away, which is going to be a percentage of people, even with the pull focused funnel, the second option, if 40% are buying, booking a call, 60% are not, right? So what are we doing with those 60%? Oftentimes, some of them just need a chance to either go through the product, log into it, see what it's all about, or maybe they're like, the calendar didn't have the time that I was available, right? Maybe they want to get on something that's a little bit lower intent, lower effort, lower investment. So they jump on a webinar kind of thing at the end of the week. But position it in some sort of way where it's to help them get the most out of the product they just bought, and then shift into the sale after you've been halfway through the webinar, right? Now, week 3 to 4, you want to start to optimize the back end sign up. So you've got about 10 low ticket sales a day at this point, maybe a bit higher, 15, 20. Now we want to start looking at how many people are getting on these calls. So booking rate, show up rate, close rate, right? We want to see, are the people that we're bringing through getting us the right people that will sign up on the back end? If they're not, then let's go back to the front and let's fix the type of people that are coming through, because we need the back end solid before we raise spend and start to do more tests on the front end side of scaling our ads. So before we start getting to $1,000 a day in ad spend, $2,000, $5,000, we want to make sure that the back end is solid, so that when we scale the front, the back end scales as well. Sales team's happy, all that kind of stuff. So looking at bookings, show rate, closes, making sure that the back end is in check, right? And ideally, we want about, I like to say up around 3%, because I think it's possible these days. You can definitely do it. You want to be around 1 to 3% of your low ticket people ascending into high ticket or whatever you're selling on the back end, whether it's MRR or high ticket, within a 30-day period, right? So you really want to be looking at, okay, this has run now for, that's why we say the 3 to 4 week period. End of your first month of running it properly, you've got, that's like 4 weeks of running it at least 10 buys a day. Then you can see, okay, if I brought through, like, let's say 10 by 30, so 300 people, have I brought through kind of that, like at least 3 high ticket buyers on the back end, right? That's your 1%. Maybe you want to be up around 9 high ticket buyers to give you 3%, right? Now, what happens from week 4 onwards? So now you are going to scale your front end buyers, and you can do this a few different ways. Your back end is solid. You're going to naturally do more with that as well over time. But you want to be looking at, okay, how do I get as many low ticket buyers as possible? That's going to be different ad concepts. So you want to be able to find what pains, what angles are working really well with the audience you're going for, what's going to get the most profitable cost per acquisition. So lowering your CPA, keeping your ROAS good, but obviously making sure you're getting as many calls booked on the back end as possible with the right type of people. So you want to find the ad concepts that are working really well. That's really important. Then you want to be doing more creative testing. You're going to need more ads than you think. Once you find the concepts that are working really well, you want to be able to have, these are the avatars or the people we advertise towards. These are the concepts we go for, and you want to mix and match them to be able to get enough ads out during the week. If you are launching 5 to 10 ads a week and you want to be spending more money on your ads, you are not doing enough, right? You need to be launching typically like at least 20 new ad sets a week of different combinations to be able to see what's working so you can double down on it, right? Now, your double downing on it could be you test new concepts. It could be that you're making variations of your ads in terms of making them better. If you're seeing that maybe the concept worked, but the thumb stop rate wasn't as good as it could be, so the percentage of people that see the ad and as they're scrolling, it stops their thumb, stop the scroll. Maybe the click-through rate wasn't as good as it could be. Maybe Maybe the cost per call wasn't as good on the back end, all these kind of things, right? You want to be looking at this to be able to say, okay, where can I squeeze more juice out of lemon? What can I change and make a variation of? Or you might also look at, okay, how can we get these into scaling? We've got 5 that are in our scaling campaign now. How do we make sure that we are maximizing on that and create more that are like our scaling ads that are clearly doing well, right? So scaling campaigns, that brings me to the next thing. Scaling campaigns are really important. Most people will think that, I'll quickly move this over here. Most people will think that to scale a book funnel, a low ticket funnel, I'm going to use a challenge funnel, any of these low ticket funnels where you charge $17, $27, whatever it is on the front end, to scale it as high as possible, they think you have ad 1, you have ad 2, and let's say you have 50 ad sets like this, right? And they think you take this from, say, all of these start at $50 a day. They think you raise this and you raise it until you can get these to the point where you have, let's say, 10 ad sets, all spending $500 a day. And they think that's how you scale your spend to, obviously, 5K a day. Wrong. What you want to have is you want to have your ad sets here, same model, this here. Let's do that a bit better. Same model here, and you can raise these a little bit. Maybe you get them to $200. Maybe you get them to 400. That's okay. But what you want to do is you want to cherry pick. Let's add another one here. Let's say it's ad 3. Let's say these are, it's not 1, 2, 3, but it's ad 11, add 24, add 37, for example, right? So let's say out of the 50 you've tested, you find 3 that are working really well. We want to graduate these into their own CBO. All of these down here are in an ABO for testing. Whoa, that was horrible. Not much better. I'm on the edge of the iPad. All of these are in their own ABO, so we can give $50 to this, give $50 to that, blah, blah, blah. But when we find things that are working, we want to move them into the CBO. Into the CBO here. That then has more spend. So this might then start at $1,000, and then we raise this up to 5K incrementally based on where it's going. You will get 80% of your daily buyers through your CBO. Don't try and scale your testing ad sets. You're not going to be able to push them as far. Find your winners there and then put them in your scaling campaign. That is the biggest piece of advice I can give you. If you want to scale this as hard as possible, do as many tests as possible to find things that are outliers and performing well below your KPI, and then scale those things. Trust me, as soon as you do that, you will find that the ROAS is blissful. You will find that you can spend more on it. You'll find that you can double the ad spend on the campaign and it will just work. It's because you've found something that's far outperforming what you've got. Okay, so back to here. Then after that point, so once you're getting to the point of having scaling campaigns and things like that, you can start to test different order bumps, test different upsells to increase your average order value. Because obviously, if it's costing you $50 to get a sale, you can get your average order value to 60 or 70. It just gives you more wiggle room, right? So they're the main things. And I think that covers us for our entire video. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so hopefully this has been valuable for you. Obviously, this entire video was to give you a step-by-step process of if you want to get a low-ticket funnel working for your coaching business, to be able to help you scale up in terms of how many people are seeing your brand, in terms of how many people are coming through, in terms of how many calls you're booking, or you don't even need to book calls with this kind of thing. You could just get them to go through into a one-to-many webinar on the back end and sign them up there. That works too. If you don't like doing sales calls, or you can get them into an offer doc, whatever you want. But if you want to be able to scale up your coaching business, I truly believe that low ticket funnels work really well for the majority of businesses, especially if you're between the 10 to 30K mark and you're trying to scale, but you maybe don't have the biggest capital buffer to be able to do book or call funnels or things like that, where you have to go sometimes weeks without seeing the investment come back straight away. You're kind of waiting for the snowball effect to come through. So that's where I think that low ticket funnels work tremendously well. My name is Alexander Menno. I hope you found this video profoundly useful. If you have any questions based on this video, drop them in the comments below. If you have any other videos you want me to film, put them in the comments. Follow me on Instagram at It's Alexander Menno, and you can send me a message there with any questions you've got. The entire purpose of this video, all the other videos on my channel, and this YouTube channel specifically is about handing down the lessons that I've learned in scaling my businesses up to these points that maybe you're trying to get to as well. So any questions you've got, let me know. Happy to film these tutorials and videos for you, and there's many, many more to come. That's it for now. Thanks.